At my dad's birthday, my nephew pointed at me and said, "Grandma says you're not really part of the family." Everyone laughed. I smiled. That night, I froze his tuition account. By 8:55 a.m., my sister called me 22 times. When I finally answered, she screamed, "You're heartless!" My nephew has always had some kind of issue with me. I've never figured out why, but he's made it clear in 1,000 little ways. Eye rolls, snide comments, acting like I'm invisible when I walk into a room. He's 17 now, old enough to know better, but too self-absorbed to care. And somehow, still fed up with me. It was my dad's 50th birthday. A big one. He'd been planning it for months. Backyard, tent rentals, a taco truck parked in the driveway, a playlist full of Springsteen and Queen. The usual suburban royalty treatment. I drove in from Boston the night before, stayed at a hotel even though I could have crashed at my parents' place. I've lived in the city for almost 15 years now, made decent money in finance, avoided a marriage I would have regretted, and quietly handled more family bills than I care to admit. But that's the thing, they always act like I'm just John, the guy who doesn't have kids. The one who works too much. The one who, for some reason, they love to leave out of things unless they need help. I've paid off hospital bills, helped with down payments, even funded my nephew Tyler's private high school tuition for the last 2 years. Not that he's ever said thank you. Tyler showed up to the party wearing designer sneakers I knew he didn't pay for, standing next to my sister Marlene like he was doing us all a favor. I hadn't even gotten a hello from either of them when it happened. Everyone was gathering for a photo by the fire pit. I stepped into the group and Tyler turned his head, looked me up and down, and said it in the most casual voice. "Grandma says you're not really part of the family?" Just like that. Flat. Loud. No hesitation. The laughter was immediate. Not the shocked kind. Real laughter. I heard my cousin snort. Someone clapped. My mom didn't say a word. My dad raised an eyebrow and smirked. I stood there and smiled like it didn't hit me in the gut. But it did. Hard. I went back to the hotel early. Didn't even say goodbye. Ordered a drink from the lobby bar, went upstairs, opened my laptop, and logged into the education account I'd set up for Tyler. There was enough in there to cover another year and a half at that expensive private school. I froze it with 3 clicks. No warning. No message. Just done. At 8:55 the next morning, I had 22 missed calls from Marlene. I let them ring. At 10:12 I picked up. She didn't even say hello. "You're heartless. What kind of man punishes a kid for telling the truth?" I said exactly one thing before hanging up. "Tell Grandma thanks for the heads up." By noon, I got the first text from my mom. "We need to talk. What you did to Tyler was unnecessary." I ignored it. Then my dad texted. "Call your mother." Nope. I sat in my apartment that evening with the same drink in my hand, looking out the window while messages kept piling in. But I was already done. With all of them. The mask was off. I knew where I stood. They laughed. They all laughed. So let's see how funny it is when the tuition bills start hitting without me backing them. By Monday morning, the fallout had begun. I rolled over and saw 27 missed calls, 22 from Marlene, the rest from my parents. There was also a 9-minute voicemail from my sister, which I didn't listen to until later that night. I already knew the tone. I already knew the script. It started with rage, turned into guilt, and then ended with some line about how I was ruining Tyler's future over a joke. The word joke came up 3 times. Funny how none of them thought it was a joke when I was wiring tuition payments every semester. Or when I bailed them out last Christmas when they accidentally overspent and their mortgage check bounced. They never laughed then. She said Tyler didn't mean it the way it sounded. That he was just repeating something he heard. That I should be the bigger person. That I was making a 17-year-old pay for family drama. The thing is, Tyler didn't just repeat it. He stared me in the face when he said it. He meant every word. And nobody corrected him, not even Marlene. They laughed. They all laughed. I ignored the message. Same with the next 5 texts from my mom, who asked if I could be reasonable and not take this out on Tyler. Not a word about what he said. Not a word about how it made me feel. Just more reminders that I had the money and they didn't. By Tuesday morning, the panic hit a new gear. Marlene sent an email from her work account. The subject line said, "Urgent, We need to talk about Tyler's tuition. It was a desperate essay about how they didn't have any backup funds, how the school wouldn't offer scholarships mid-year, how his future was now uncertain because of my personal grudge. She said she didn't want to bring the whole family into it, but if I kept acting this way, I'd force her to. I laughed when I read that part. Because that's exactly what I wanted. That night, I logged into the accounts I had access to, utilities, cell phone bills, even the automatic payment on the family SUV that I helped them refinance 2 years ago when they were drowning in debt. I didn't cancel anything. Just paused it all. Let the payment dates lapse. Let the system start sending overdue notices. Quiet little ripples. Wednesday morning, my dad called. His first words were, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I didn't even flinch. I asked him one question. "Do you pay those bills?" He was quiet. I told him I had. For the last 5 years. Since he hurt his back and couldn't work for a while. Since they started falling behind and nobody else in the family stepped up. Then I asked a second question. "Do you think Tyler should apologize?" He said nothing. Just breathed into the phone for a few seconds before hanging up. By Thursday, other relatives were getting involved. My mom called my Aunt Linda, who's been through enough family drama to write a book. Linda called me that night. I didn't sugarcoat anything. Told her exactly what was said at the party. She didn't even blink. "You've been paying for their lives while they trash you behind your back. They should be on their knees." She wasn't being dramatic. She was being honest. And I think that's what made it sting for them when word got around. By Friday, it was chaos. My cousin Leo, who made his fortune in tech and knows exactly how this kind of family freeloading works, called and told me he'd heard what happened. He said, "I've been waiting years for you to stop letting them treat you like a debit card. Good for you." That same day, Marlene's final attempt came through. Another email. This one more humble. Less dramatic. She said maybe we could rebuild trust and figure out a way forward. Said she'd be open to a conversation. She still didn't apologize. Not for the comment. Not for the years of entitlement. Not even for laughing. It was too late. She just didn't realize how far I was willing to go this time. Saturday morning came with a group text from my mom that read like a headline in a failing newspaper. "We need to talk. As a family." Then a few hours later. "Your father isn't sleeping. His blood pressure is up. You're upsetting everyone." No mention of Tyler's comment. No ownership. Just guilt tactics. All of it meant to reel me back in like I was a fish that had finally slipped the hook. That afternoon I got the voicemail that confirmed what I'd been waiting for. It was from the school, Tyler's private high school. A polite, clipped message from someone named Ms. O'Brien, head of student financial services. She said they were beginning their quarterly billing cycle and wanted to confirm if I'd be continuing the payments for Tyler's tuition, or if they should open the spot for a waitlisted student. There was something about the way she said it, gentle, but certain. She'd seen this before. Families who ran out of money. People who didn't expect the well to dry up. It probably happened more than I realized. Just not to people like Marlene. She was used to getting bailed out. I didn't return the call. That evening, Marlene showed up at my apartment unannounced. I live in a secure building, and she didn't have my buzzer number, so she just stood at the front entrance and started texting me like we were in the middle of a normal argument. "Can we just talk like adults? You're really going to ruin his life because of something he heard from Grandma? You're punishing a kid because you're bitter." Bitter. That one stuck with me for a second. Like I hadn't paid for years of her son's education without so much as a thank you card. Like I wasn't the one footing bills while she went on beach vacations and posted inspirational quotes on Instagram about manifesting abundance. I didn't answer. She waited outside for 20 minutes and then left. The next morning, the group chat exploded again. My mom, my dad, Marlene, and now my grandmother. She joined the show. She sent a long, dramatic message about how family sticks together and money should never come between blood. No one said a thing about what Tyler said. No one admitted to anything. It was all my fault, apparently, for reacting. I stared at the message and thought about the time I canceled a trip to Italy because Marlene's car broke down and she needed $2,000 overnight. I thought about the months I paid my parents' power bill when they couldn't keep the lights on. The medication. The groceries. The vacations I skipped. The life I delayed. All so they could be comfortable. That night I went deeper. I logged into the credit union account my dad had asked me to help him manage years ago. Back when he couldn't work after his surgery and wanted me to help keep things afloat. I was a joint account holder. My name, my access, my money. There was a little over $6,000 in it. Deposits I had made over the years. A slow trickle of help that built up because they never touched it, probably forgot it was even there. I transferred every last cent out of the account. Not out of revenge. Just because I could. By Monday morning, things started to cave in. My dad tried calling 3 times before 8 a.m. I ignored all of them. Then came the texts, short, sharp, full of implied authority. Call me. We need to fix this. You've made your point. Now undo it. But he still hadn't said sorry? Not once. 10 minutes later, Marlene sent a screenshot of an email from Tyler's school. They were initiating withdrawal paperwork due to non-payment. Please fix this, she wrote. I muted the chat and sat back, watching the whole thing unravel from a safe, quiet distance. They were finally realizing what it meant to lose their safety net. And it was only just beginning. By Tuesday morning, they'd gone quiet. No texts. No calls. Nothing in the group chat. It wasn't peace, though. Not really. It was the kind of silence that comes before a storm. I know my family too well to mistake it for surrender. When they go radio silent, it means they've retreated to strategize. So I waited. That afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. When I played the message, I had to listen twice. It wasn't the school's finance office this time. It was the head of disciplinary affairs. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed, as she explained that Tyler had been caught cheating during a midterm. Several students came forward, and one even submitted photographic proof of a cheat sheet tucked inside his sleeve. They were opening an investigation, pending a full academic review. Expulsion was on the table. I sat there on the couch, staring out the window, the voicemail still playing in the background. They were fighting tooth and nail to keep him in the school, crying about tuition and fairness and my so-called cruelty, while Tyler had already wrecked his own future behind their backs. When the message ended, I didn't call the school back. I forwarded it directly to Marlene. No text. No explanation. Just the voicemail file. 3 minutes later she called. This time, no yelling. Her voice was cracked open and flat. She said she had no idea. Said Tyler would never do that. Said the school was probably retaliating because of the payment delay. Blamed me. Blamed the system. Blamed everyone but her son. I didn't say anything. I let her talk until she ran out of gas. Then I hung up. 5 minutes later, my mother called. You need to help him, she said. This is serious. This is his future. I asked one question. Do you still think I'm not really part of this family? There was silence. Then she sighed, and the line went dead. That night, I pulled up the logins for my parents' accounts again. Nothing had been paid. The electricity had been shut off for 2 days. The internet was suspended. The water was flagged as past due. I took a screenshot of the electric bill and sent it to my dad. No message. Just the overdue balance in bold red, $413.72. He didn't respond. Until the next morning. Wednesday, around noon, there was a knock on my apartment door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I checked the peephole and was genuinely surprised. Uncle Ray. My dad's younger brother. Quiet guy. Retired Navy. Doesn't talk much. Never married, no kids. He lives a few towns over and usually keeps to himself during family drama. He'd always treated me fairly, though. I opened the door and before I could say anything, he held up a 6-pack of cheap beer and said, "Come take a walk." We sat on a bench a few blocks down near an old park. He didn't make small talk. Just looked ahead and said, "They took you for granted. For years. They used you and laughed behind your back. And now that you're done, they act like you're the one who broke something." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Then he said something I wasn't expecting. "Your grandfather called me last night. Said he's rewriting the will?" I turned my head. "He's pissed," Ray continued. "Said he's done watching them leech off you. Said the only one in the family with a spine is you." I blinked. I hadn't talked to my grandfather in months. He's 86, lives in Florida most of the year, and avoids family tension like it's radioactive. For him to step in at all was huge. But then Ray pulled out his phone and showed me a text. It was a screenshot from Grandpa. Tell John I'm leaving it all to him. The house, the cash, the lake property. I'm not giving a dime to those spoiled ingrates. They'll choke on the silence he gave them. I just stared at it. It wasn't about the money. It was the fact that someone, finally, saw it. Everything. The years. The bills. The silence. The fake gratitude. All of it. Ray stood up, put the beers down beside the bench, and said one last thing. Let them sink. They need to know what drowning without you feels like. I walked back to my apartment without saying a word. By Thursday, the group chat came back to life. But this time, it was different. Because now they knew. Now, they really needed me. And I was done. By Thursday evening, the messages started dripping back in, one at a time. First it was Marlene. Can we please talk? I'm sorry for how things went. Tyler's upset. We all are. This isn't what we wanted. Then my mom. I know things got out of hand. We didn't mean to make you feel pushed aside. You've always been important to us. Then, just before midnight, my dad. Your grandfather has made things very difficult. Let's fix this before it gets worse. There it was. Not an apology. Not even close. But confirmation they knew. The will. The inheritance. The shift. Grandpa didn't just whisper it to Ray and leave it at that. He told them. And now they were crawling back. Friday morning, I got the call that felt like a movie. It was Grandpa. He hadn't called me in over a year. Just the occasional birthday card or check-in email. But here he was, calling my cell like it was nothing. His voice was sharp as ever. No small talk. He said, I told them you're getting everything. Then I told them they could cry about it in the dark. I laughed. He didn't. They were livid, he continued. Called me ungrateful. Said you manipulated me. Then he said something that actually caught me off guard. They said they'd change if I reconsidered. So I told them, get on your knees and beg him. See how that goes. I don't know what surprised me more, the fact that he said it, or the fact that he meant it. Later that day, I got a text from Marlene. A photo. Tyler, sitting at a kitchen table with some sad-looking books in front of him, head in his hands. He's devastated. He knows he messed up. He's not the same kid right now. Please, John. Can we just start over? Start over? They never started with me. Then came the group chat. Everyone chiming in now. My mom, Marlene, even my dad. My mom said we've all made mistakes. But we're still family. We need to come together again. Especially now. Marlene followed with, Grandpa's being dramatic. He's just upset. He'll come around. But please, let's fix things. Then my dad. You've made your point. The tuition, the bills, the account. But enough is enough. We can work this out. We're not enemies. A minute later, Grandpa jumped in. He had been added to the group. His message? You should have thought about family before you treated John like a damn servant. Now you want him back? Funny how that works. They didn't reply. Not for a while. Then my mom sent one final message. We didn't mean to hurt you. But we can't lose everything over one misunderstanding. And then Grandpa again. No. You can't lose everything. John already did. Respect. Dignity. His place in this family? You just didn't notice. I didn't respond to any of it. Later that night, Ray called. Said Grandpa had already started moving the estate paperwork. Lawyers. Documents. Bank accounts. The house. The lake property. Everything. Ray said, you know they're gonna try to act like none of this ever happened, right? I told him I wasn't worried. Let them try. Because begging always looks the same. But once you've seen someone laugh at your place in the family, you never unsee it. The following week was one long string of pathetic performances. Marlene started posting old childhood photos of us on Facebook, tagging me with captions like family is forever and we've been through too much to give up now. She even added a line about how misunderstandings can tear people apart if we let them. Comments rolled in from distant cousins and nosy friends saying things like, you two were always so close. And, family fights don't last. I didn't respond to a single one. The next day, my mom sent me an email with the subject line, Olive Branch. Inside was a long, overwritten apology that clearly wasn't hers. The tone was too formal. The phrases too rehearsed. I could almost picture her sitting next to Marlene, typing it word for word as they dictated it. She listed all the things I had done out of kindness, and admitted that they should have recognized my sacrifices. There was even a line about how I had always been the backbone of the family, and they were ready to rebuild with love and gratitude. At the bottom, she'd attached a photo of a dinner table set for 6. Said it was for Sunday. Said they hoped I'd come. I didn't even open the calendar invite. Saturday, my dad left me a voicemail. His tone had changed. No anger this time. Just quiet disappointment. He said, "I know we screwed up. I know you're angry. But you're not perfect either. Maybe you should try being part of this family again, instead of just holding it hostage." That was his idea of a peace offering. And then Sunday came. Dinner time. I stayed home. Watched a movie. Ordered Thai food. Ignored the calls that started around 6. Ignored the messages that followed. "We made your favorite. Everyone's here. Grandpa didn't come." No kidding. I texted Ray instead. Asked how Grandpa was doing. He replied immediately. "He's laughing his ass off." Said he wanted to see if they'd actually grovel. They did. Your mom almost cried over the green beans. I asked if he went full speech mode. Ray sent back. He told them, "You treated him like an outsider. Now he owns the inside." I laughed harder than I had in weeks. That night, I got one final message in the group chat. "Marlene, can we at least talk one-on-one?" I left it on read. Because here's the thing no one in my family understands. Once someone shows you what they really think of you, you don't get to unsee it. You don't get to pretend the laughs didn't happen. That the silence after didn't feel like confirmation. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. The bills? Still unpaid. The tuition? Still frozen. The inheritance? Being finalized. And me? I sleep just fine. Funny how that works. The update. It's been a little over 3 months now. Life's been quiet, and honestly, that's been the best part of it. I haven't heard much from anyone since the last time they tried to guilt-trip me into showing up for a family dinner that felt more like a setup than anything else. No tuition payments, no calls about overdue bills, no one pretending to check in. Just to see how you're doing. It was like they finally got the message. Until last week. I came home to a letter. Actual letter. Stamped, handwritten envelope. My name in looping cursive I recognized immediately, Marlene. For a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, this was it. The one message where someone in that house finally owned up to what they did. I opened it. 5 pages, front and back. And what do you know? Not a single real apology in the whole thing. It started with how stressful life had been lately, how she'd been emotionally overwhelmed during that time, and how things got out of hand with the family. Then it veered into nostalgia. Remember when we used to play tag in the yard? Like childhood memories were supposed to erase a lifetime of them treating me like I didn't belong. Then the pitch came. Apparently, Tyler got into a state college. Barely. No scholarships. No financial aid. And now they don't know how they're going to afford it. She said this phrase like it wasn't ironic. If you could help us out just this once, it would mean everything. Just this once? Just this once. After 4 years of tuition. After the electric bills, car notes, insurance payments, grocery deliveries, and emergency cash transfers. After being told I wasn't really part of the family, by a kid I was quietly funding while his mother laughed behind my back. After all of that, she thinks this would be the first time? I put the letter back in the envelope. Let it sit on my kitchen counter for a day. I wasn't angry anymore. It was almost impressive, how deep their entitlement runs. How they still believe they're owed something just because we share DNA. The next day, I drove over to Grandpa's house. He was in the garden, pulling weeds with one hand, sipping lemonade with the other. I handed him the letter without saying anything. He read every word. Then he handed it back, smiled, and said, "Well, we've been waiting for round 2. He stood up, walked inside, and came back with the updated will paperwork. I'd forgotten how detailed it was, trusts, clauses, contingencies. He flipped to a page, tapped it, and asked, "Want to add a condition?" We drafted a clause right there at his dining room table. No member of the immediate family shall receive inheritance or financial benefit of any kind unless approved in writing by John, with notarized documentation, to be reviewed annually. I signed it under his signature. He looked at me and said, "Let's see if they figure out what silence really means this time. Because there's no letter, no dinner, and no memory sweet enough to rewrite the part where they showed me exactly who I was to them. Useful. Until I stopped being useful. Now they get to sit in the dark and figure out who they really are without me. Again.